Hi there, this is Mr. Schnitzius, and in this video we're going to do embedded assessment 1 over probability after activity 40. This is on page 593 of your Unit 6 ebook. So let's take a look at the problem here. Again, I would highly recommend that you solve these problems yourself. Pause the video while you're doing that, and then we will go over the answers. Okay, so this embedded assessment is 2 problems, but each problem is multi-part. So it says Diane is organizing her collection of books. She has 91 novels in total and has categorized them as shown in the table below. The first thing they want us to do is complete the table by writing the totals in the empty cells. Well, we're going to do this by hand first and then check our answers. To get the totals, we just need to find the sum for each category. So for the detective novels, 12 hardcover plus 20 paperback would give us 32 detective novels. For the romance novels, 8 hardcover plus 28 paperback would give us 36 romance novels. And for the other novels, 9 hardcover plus 14 paperback would give us 23 other novels. And 32 plus 36 plus 23 would add up to 91. Or we can total up how many hardcovers there are plus how many paperbacks there are, and that should also give us 91. So 12 plus 8 plus 9 gives us 29 total hardcovers. 20 plus 28 plus 14 gives us 62 total paperback books. And that matches up with what the answer key has for us here. So we're going to look at some fractions that we can set up to help us with part B. Suppose that a book will be randomly selected from these 91 novels. Find the probability that the book is a detective novel. Well, there are 32 detective novels out of 91 total books. So they gave their answers over here, and the answer key is decimals. That would come out to be 0.352. For number 2, to find the probability that we had a hardcover book, there are 29 hardcover books out of 91 books total. So that is a probability of 0.319. For number 3, they want us to get the probability that we have a paperback detective novel. So there are 62 paperbacks, but we want the books that are paperbacks and detective novels. So that would be these 20 books right here. So 20 paperback detective novels out of 91 total books would give us a probability of 0.22. Number 4 says, find the probability that we have a paperback or a detective novel. So that would be any of the paperback books or any of the detective books. There are 32 detective books total. We've already counted these 20, so we still need to include these 12. So 12 plus 20 is 32, plus 28 more is 60, plus 14 more is 74 out of 91. Or as a decimal, that could come out to be 0.813. And then lastly, number 5 is asking us for the probability that we do not have a detective novel. So that would be 1 minus the probability that we do have a detective novel, which we saw from number 1 was 0.352, which as a decimal comes out to be 0.648. An alternative way to work that out would be to count up how many books were not detective novels. That would be, so let's erase those. That would be anything besides these 32. So that could be these 36 romance novels plus these 23 other novels. We could have gotten that same answer by working out 59 over 91. So now part C says, if Diane selects one of these novels at random, are the events is a detective novel and is a hardcover mutually exclusive? So let's first review what it means for events to be mutually exclusive. Events are mutually exclusive if they cannot happen at the same time. So another way to ask this question is it impossible for a book to be a detective novel and a hardcover novel at the same time? Well, the answer to that is no. We have 12 books right here that prove that these two events are not mutually exclusive. To be mutually exclusive, these two events cannot happen at the same time, but there are 12 books here that are both detective novels and hardcover books. D says, if Diane selects one of these novels at random, are the events is a detective novel and is a romance novel mutually exclusive? Well, you're either a detective novel or you're a romance novel, but in this situation, you cannot be both. So the answer to that question would be yes. Those two events are mutually exclusive. The novel cannot be both a detective novel and a romance novel. So now let's look at number 2. Number 2 says Diane also has a number of nonfiction books. Of these books, 28% are hardcover, 22% are reference books, and 13% are hardcover reference books. Diane will select a nonfiction book at random. Let the event that the selected book is a hardcover be H, and the event that it is a reference book be R. So number 2A says, draw a Venn diagram to represent this information and show the probabilities as decimals. Here is what that Venn diagram is going to come out to look like. Now we're going to break down where each of these numbers comes from. It's very important to first work out the intersection when you have two events in your Venn diagram. So I'm going to fill this in first. Why is that? Well, what people will do a lot of the time is they'll put the 0.28 here inside of hardcover only. They'll put the 0.22 here for reference only, and then they'll put the 0.13 here. Well, remember, 28% is supposed to be the total for the hardcover books, right? So if it was 0.13 here and 0.28 here, the total for this circle H wouldn't be 0.28, it would be 0.41. We want this total for the circle H representing the hardcover books to be 28%, 0.28. So how did we get this 0.15? That was the 28% for the whole circle minus the 0.13 we already used in the middle. Similarly, this 0.09 is because we did 0.22 minus 0.13. That's how we get 0.09. All right, so where does this 0.63 come from? Well, the sum of the probabilities in any probability experiment has to be 1, right? So how much of that 1, how much of that full 100% have we used by filling in the probability that a book is hardcover and a reference book, the probability that a book is a hardcover book but not a reference book, and then also the probability that a book is a reference book but not a hardcover book? Well, we've used 15% for the left, 13% for the middle, 9% for the right, reference only. So that adds up to 0.37. And we get this 0.63 by doing 1 minus 0.37. That's where the 0.63 comes from. So now let's look at part B. Find the probability that the selected book is a hardcover or a reference book. Well, that could be from being hardcover only or reference only or both. So that answer comes out to be 0.37. That's what we saw over here when we added those three probabilities inside either circle together. Part B, number 2, a hardcover that is not a reference book. So if it's hardcover, that would be inside this circle here, but if it's not a reference book, that would be just that 0.15. And then 3 says neither a hardcover nor a reference book. So that's outside of the circle for H and also outside of the circle for R. So that's this 0.63 value outside both circles but inside the rectangle. All right, number 2C. So write each of the following using probability notation. Use the symbols. So let's go over what these symbols here mean really quickly. This upside down U is the intersection and it represents the AND. It represents the portion of the Venn diagram that contains both circles. So that's an upside down U. You can see that kind of looks like an N, just like N is the second letter there of intersection. Then this U looking shape is the union of two sets, and that shows you the OR probability. And then this superscript C is the complement of an event. And we learned about complementary events way back in activity 38. That's an event not happening. The complement of event A is the event where A does not happen. So for number 1, we want the probability that the selected book is hardcover and a reference book. Well, the symbol for and for two events, for both events happening, is this intersection. So that's going to be the probability that we get H and R. You can also read this as the probability of H intersect R. For number 2, it says the probability that the selected book is a hardcover or a reference book. Well, this is going to involve the union symbol that we have right here. So that would be the probability of H or R. Or in set notation language, we could say that this is the probability of H union R. And then number 3 says the probability that the selected book is not a reference book. Well, to get the event where an event does not happen, we use the complement symbol. So that would be the probability of not a reference book, or in set notation language, that would be the probability of R complement. All right, that's it for this embedded assessment. Thank you guys for watching, and thank you so much for your hard work. Good luck studying for your final exam this week.